Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the new Sam Raimi directed film, Send Help. Now, this is a film I've been looking forward to for a little bit, as I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. I practically grew up watching his movies. Spider-Man 2 was the first movie I ever went and saw in theaters, and I really just grew up on that Spider-Man trilogy as a kid, and then as a teenager, I ended up really falling in love with the Evil Dead trilogy as well that he directed, and a lot of his other movies, Drag Me to Hell, Darkman, they're all really fun, energetic, stylistic, just pleasures to watch. And I think that that sort of energy and style is something that really needs to be infused into modern Hollywood. And so I was really looking forward to watching this movie. So without much further ado, let's get into it. Let's discuss my thoughts on the film. Let's review Send Help. So as I was saying, this is Sam Raimi's return to sort of original filmmaking. He did get his return to directing when he was the sort of mercenary director for hire replacement for Scott Derrickson for Doctor Strange 2, which that movie was one that definitely had a lot of his stylistic trademarks for sure, and it was a fun, enjoyable movie, though I thought deeply flawed by some of the structural issues that are inherent within any sort of Marvel movie. So for that reason, I was really excited to see this one because it was going to be an original film from him, and I love this sort of concept that it was playing with. So I thought there was a lot of meat on the bone for Raimi to explore, and I think he absolutely does this. And you can clearly tell he's having a lot of fun with this movie, and he's really pushing his actors and really getting good performances out of both of his lead actors. You have Rachel McAdams, who I'm a fan of. I think she's one of the better modern actresses, of our times right now, and I think that she really delivers a great performance here and helps carry the movie, especially during the first half. Dylan O'Brien is someone who I haven't really had too much experience with. I've seen some of the early Maze Runner movies, but it's been a while. But he's someone that I'm now going to kind of follow his career development because I think he did do a good job with this film. He gives a good performance. He is just a complete asshole who you do not have sympathy for. But then towards the middle and the end, he shifts a little bit, but still not enough. Like you still kind of understand who he is at his core, but there's a little bit more layers to him other than just a stereotypical asshole boss, which you would expect from a movie like this. So I think Raimi kind of plays with the expectations that we have, who we're cheering for, all the sort of who has the leverage and the power in each situation. And so it's a cat and mouse survival game in this sort of environment that I just find really fun, and it's a good movie. So as I was saying, Rachel McAdams is someone that I really do respect. I think that she's a really good actress. I love her in a lot of the movies she was in. I think she did well with Sam Raimi in his other work in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Of course, I've seen her in a lot of things as well. That she has a really good energy to her, and I think that she really helps deliver this character. I don't think the writing is necessarily great in this film, but the directing and the acting sort of make up for it. And I think that Rachel McAdams is a big key as to why this happens. I think that she really brings a lot of depth and multi-layered and multifaceted sort of characterization to a character that could be a stereotype, could just be, it could just be a very cliched movie based on the concept, but I think that they really do deliver on making it both fun and sort of having some depth to it within the characterization, within sort of the action that goes on. There's a lot of things that are happening. They throw a lot at you, and for the most part, I think that McAdams is really the heart and soul of this movie that carries it, especially during the beginning portions of the movie when you have no other likable characters. No one else has any sort of interiority at all except for her. And so she really has to carry a lot of things early on to help set up this concept. And I think she does a great job. And we really do feel for her, but then we also understand sort of the psychological deterioration that she experiences as a result of what's going on. So I think she really does a great job here with the performance that she gives. I'd also give praises to Dylan O'Brien. Early on, he's just playing, your stereotypical cliched asshole boss, and he does a good job with that. He's really just, you can tell he's just having fun, just being a complete jerk. But then at the same time, middle point in the movie where things start to shift a little bit. In Dylan O'Brien, you start to see a little bit more interiority of his character. You start to kind of understand his perspective. You're not fully on his side. You're never really on his side in this movie. But at the same time, having depth to people that would otherwise be cliched or stereotypical villains is really what allows genre films to be elevated. And I think that this is one of those types of movies that Sam Raimi really delivers on a sort of basic concept done very well. So Raimi does great direction. There's really solid performances all around, but really from our two leads that are really carrying this movie. The writing is kind of poor, and there's definitely some moments that lag here or there, but for the most part, you can tell that there's just a lot of fun being had with this movie. Raimi's really just letting it all out and is really delivering on an enjoyable movie, which I think we need more of these types of movies that are just enjoyable, fun, a little bit of depth to them, a little bit of craziness going on, a little bit of unexpectedness. You don't really know exactly where it's going to go, even though it does rely on some cliches in the setting up of the concept. I think the delivery of it is very original and fun, and I think that's really exciting. I mean, of course, it's playing in things that have been done before. And so what I mean by that, by like playing around with concepts that have been explored before, I mean more like the way that the film tackles gender politics, which feels very 90s or even 2000s. And in fact, it kind of reminds me of a different Rachel McAdams movie from the early 2000s, Red Eye, which was directed by Wes Craven and also starred Cillian Murphy alongside her. And it was really these two characters going back and forth in a battle of survival and wits and all that kind of stuff. That was sort of what I was really reminded of a lot with this movie, though obviously very different. That one was mostly on an airplane, this one's mostly on an island, and you have to survive the elements and things like that. So there was a lot going on. The twists, the turns, that was all kind of fun Raimi stuff that you would expect. The way, the energetic sort of filmmaking, the camera shots, the way that he would do chase sequences and run sequences and action sequences reminded me a lot of Spider-Man. There was like a chase sequence where Danny Elfman's score was just straight out of Spider-Man, it felt like. So there was a lot of stuff that was kind of being done over and re-explored and reused and recycled in a way that was fun and energetic. And as a fan of Raimi, I really enjoyed that. So of course, continue to play the hits, especially since you're doing it in a smart way, in a refreshing way. Now, like I said, the gender politics, the way that they handled that, the class politics, the kind of it's almost like an eat the rich film almost in a way as well. So you're kind of having that, which is sort of a concept that's been explored a lot in this sort of time period we're in now, which is more like the late 2010s, early 2020s. That's sort of been a new sort of subgenre within horror that's really been played around with and explored. And so you're kind of dabbling in a lot of these things while you're getting these great performances, this great depth and characterization. And so when I say that they're kind of like playing with the gender politics of like the 90s or 2000s or like the class politics of now, it's like it's not handling it in a poor way. It's not outdated sort of ideas. It's just the way that it's approached in filmmaking is what's kind of interesting, that he's sort of dabbling within that, but sort of bringing it into a more modern context of a movie. Now, like I said, the action itself is really exciting. I think the special effects are really gruesome. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of just intense fighting sequences, and there is CGI being used, but it's being used in a very smart way. Raimi's not way overdoing it. He knows how to balance it with practical effects in a very smart way, and like it's not the worst CGI either, which is nice, which is a good ability to have when you have this sort of budget to be able to understand when you can use CGI in a smart way. And I think Raimi sort of understands that. He's someone that was kind of really molded in the era of practical effects and practical effects filmmaking and that approach and filmmaking style. And so I think he knows not to overuse CGI and not to just use it to replace everything that he's doing, which we're seeing in films like Return to Silent Hill. And like that film used practical effects, but they just used too much ugly CGI that it just sort of overwhelmed the senses. This one knows how to sort of complement and blend it in a way that doesn't just look like an eyesore, and I love that. And I think Raimi really still is clearly having a lot of fun making this and delivering on all sorts of great visuals. And it's a visually pretty movie. Obviously, it takes place on an island, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of great colors and vibrancy there, which is something that you also don't get in a lot of typical sort of modern movies that are very grayscale all the time, it feels like, and just very monotone and in the same sort of colors. And just really, this one's a vibrant movie, and it's got blood squirting everywhere, and there's so many funny moments, there's so many moments that make you laugh. But then there's times also where I feel like Raimi could have gone a little bit further or shown us more, because I think there was, I don't, without going into spoilers, there's moments where it sort of cuts away from things, and I don't like that. I would rather you show it. That's what Raimi has always been able to do, is deliver on those moments. But instead, it's like this cheap little filmmaking trick to just be like, well, I don't want to show this right now. Now, one of the times it was used in a smart way, but in a lot of the times, they were doing like fake outs, or we're going to cut to black now and we're going to go into the future. We're going to do this, this, and that. That was like one of the few critiques I had of the movie. And even though I really do have that as a critique of this movie, I think it still holds up beyond that. It's still able to overcome those limitations, those small limitations. But for the most part, I just really do think this is smart filmmaking on display. I think Raimi displays a level of craftsmanship that is missing in modern Hollywood. I think so many filmmakers could learn from what Raimi's doing here, to just have fun while making movies, to have vibrancy and color and great practical effects, and really just go all in. I mean, obviously there were sometimes he didn't, but for the most part he was. And to really have aggressive action and just don't be held back by anything. There's no reason to randomly be held back or to be using CGI for everything. Like, just make a fun little movie that is enjoyable and doesn't overstay its welcome and doesn't have a million flashbacks or backstories. This one delves in that a little bit, but it's mostly in a way that sort of doesn't feel like exposition. It just feels like we're not going to have a big exposition dump. We're just going to have little subtle conversations that are part of the power play that's going on, part of the back and forth, the cat and mouse game. It's all part of it. And so I love that. And I love that we really aren't always fully on like either side. Like you would think you're always going to be on McAdams' side, but she really gets crazy at times. And so you're really sort of going back and forth by what you even want to happen or expect to happen or what's even going on or how could this possibly continue, like what's going to happen next. It's a film that really does understand audience psychology and how to play around with that, and I think that makes it a really fun and enjoyable movie. There's great performances, and while the writing's not great, and like I said, there's some moments that it kind of comes to a halt a little bit, I think for the most part the energy is really fun, and it's just a really good movie. And that's the strongest feeling, is it's a fun, good movie, and that overwhelms any of the other weaknesses to make this a really solid, really good, enjoyable movie that I can recommend absolutely, especially to fans of Sam Raimi. You absolutely can't miss this movie. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications every time I drop a new video. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.